Welcome to What Now with Anna and Eric. I am Anna.
I'm Eric.
And Eric, tell me, what is your 3-word summary of this week's Bible reading?
Please stop talking.
That's actually a really good one.
Please stop talking.
Please stop talking.
Those are my 3. I couldn't do it. I was battling.
Yeah.
I felt for both parties.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah.
Please stop talking.
Mine was smarter than you.
There you go.
Because I felt like that was the theme that keep going. By the time that I got to like Job 33, 34 and Elihu or whatever starts talking, I'm like, this is hilarious. I was laughing out loud as I was reading it because I was like, what?
Well, I assume Job was in a position where he couldn't physically walk away, but at what point does somebody walk away from that conversation?
Yeah, like he's physically, he can't make it. But no, I feel that was very true.
Yep.
So before we get into our music and getting into our content. Our catch-up tip for this week is prayer.
Wow. So if I miss some days, I just put the Bible reading in front of me and I just, God, please catch me up.
Clearly,
and
we
God
need
will
to
just
specify what we mean by
wisdom on me. And I'll be like,
just
all
absorb.
right, I got it.
Yeah, put your hand on the Bible and just like through
Is
osmosis.
it like the Matrix? I'm downloading the material.
There you go. Like through your fingers. When we say prayer, because it can be very discouraging to be behind in your Bible reading, and you're like, man, I might as well just give up. And what am I even doing?
There's always next year.
Never finished a plan, And so when you get to that point, which sometimes happens on day 2, pray about it.
Boom.
Pray about
That's
it.
better than
prayer is very powerful. So get ready to be in this podcast as we are a couple of fairly normal people talking about the Bible.
Can't wait.
We are excited to talk with you.
Spiritual growth is a puzzle, and I'm a little bit muddled. What does discipleship even mean? What now? What now?
the longest exit.
I was gonna say something, and then I just wanted to let it sit.
Play out.
I was like, it feels good. All right, so we are in the book of Job. We are right smack dab in the middle of it.
Get yourself a job.
Get yourself You know what's funny is my sister was texting me actually about her Bible reading, and when I read it as because she was saying like she started the book of Job. But I read it as she started a job, and I was like, you gotta do a job.
Congratulations.
I literally was like, what? What job? Where is it? And I'm like, why isn't she responding to my question? And then it hit me literally 30 minutes later. I'm like, she's reading the Bible.
But do you think she was just thinking you were being extra encouraging? Like,
I don't know.
Maybe she's struggling through this book, and your encouragement of her getting through it?
You did so good. Congrats. Yeah. I think that we have to start out this section with our Bible recap.
Ooh, that's my favorite.
But this is going to be a different one. Okay,
what?
You ready for this? This is going to be a shared one.
So after weeks of doing this, 2 weeks, 2 weeks,
3.
I let you know.
Yeah,
3?
I think we have had 3. Yeah.
I let you know what my favorite part and what I look forward to every week.
And
then the next week you promptly change it.
Wait, it's basically the same. What I want to do is include you in it. Because here's the thing. The book of Job is basically this really long conversation. And the Bible recap does not completely make sense.
Ooh, can I be the friends?
Yes, you can be the friends. That's what I was going to ask. I will be Job. I'll do, because there's chapters of Job and there's chapters of the friend. And then at the end, I just sort of labeled this one bystander.
Well, I'll
do that, but I'll like change my voice.
But
go deep.
Because I'm looking at my notes, and most of it is just this chapter, this person talking. Like, it was just getting to the point where I'm like,
come on.
I'm just going to go with that.
Which is what your 3-word summary was.
Please
stop talking.
Please stop talking.
Okay, so Job 12 through Job 34. I will be playing the role of Job. Eric will be playing the role of friends. And I will also be the random bystander right there at the end.
All right. So I get the ones that say friend in parentheses.
Yes.
Little peek behind the curtain there, folks.
Yes. Okay. You ready for this?
Yes.
Bible recap. You think you're smart. God's my judge, not you. Life sucks.
I'm smarter than you.
Someone help. Defend me, God. Bad people. Oh, that's you.
Oh, man. I'm already getting kicked out of my role. Bad people suffer, therefore you are bad.
Some friend you are.
How dare you insult me? I'm right.
You're wrong.
That was it. That's what guilty people would say.
I am innocent. Why do people get away with evil?
You're a worm or maggot, depending on the translation.
Yeah. You think you understand God, you'll get what's coming to you. Only God gives wisdom. Life was so much better before. Even outcasts make fun of me.
Wow, you went for a long time. Man, you went kind of on here.
All right, you can be the bystander then.
There we go.
List of righteousness, that was just in there. And then...
You are all dumb. I will teach you.
Smart, but misguided. And
that sounds exactly like our weekly podcast right there.
You're all dumb, I'll teach you?
No, all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
This
the
back and forth.
conversation.
Pretty much sounds like our weekly
Actually,
podcast.
there were moments in there where I was like, this is Eric and I.
Art imitates life sometimes.
So this was an entire conversation that just kept going.
And nobody would leave it. Like, nobody was smart enough to walk away from it.
Like repeat ones where it was literally like, no, I'm right. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. And it just kind of kept going back and forth.
Yeah.
It was very interesting. And then the guy at the end, I'm going to pronounce it Elihu because I have no idea how to pronounce it. And then at the end, he's basically like, you're all dumb. I'm going to tell you what's up. And I was like, what is this guy doing right now?
Yeah, it's just like there's a point, I think Job 19, how long will you torment me? Like, listen, like, why won't you guys just leave?
He's literally
like,
saying that to his friends.
Like you came to my house. Like, you came to my house. I thought you were here for me.
Yeah.
Please just leave.
It was pretty interesing. Yeah. I laughed a lot during this one. I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah. And
I doubt Job thought it was funny.
Well, and I know I know you can break apart verse to verse and really have some deep wisdom in here. But it just like, where was the mediator? Like, why wasn't one of your friends like, hey, somebody take a breath.
Let's just...
like walk out of the room, get some fresh air.
Everybody stop talking for a moment. Yeah. Actually, Job even says at one point, he says, I need a mediator. Yeah, like, somebody come help me.
Yeah. Somebody order pizza, go pick it up. Let's take a moment.
I mean, whatever it takes.
But no, really. It's just ongoing. Just pages and pages of a discussion.
So.
Yes.
Before we really get deep into this, we had a opportunity for fan questions.
We did.
On Facebook.
I didn't even know we had fans. What do you know? Proud of that.
But you talk about them all the time, which is the funny part.
Like, that was just hopeful.
The fake fans.
Like, hopeful.
Oh,
hey, fans questions.
Do we have fans? I don't know. So we have some fan questions. Here's the big one at the top. And I say the big one because it was given by Kara Folman, who has come up on this podcast multiple times.
She is kind of a big deal.
She's been a guest.
Like, if she's a fan.
If she's a fan, we have arrived.
Yeah.
If Kara Folman is a fan. Like, there's really no other choice at that point.
I love all our fans equally. So, yes, Anna just social status. But for me, all of them are equal.
Wow, okay, fine. So, Kara Folman asked this question. I think this is a good question.
Go for it.
Why so many monologues? Should I be using more monologues in my daily life?
Always.
I wrote down yes.
Yeah, the answer is yes.
Yes, definitely have monologues. Because what did we learn from this book of Job? If you talk a lot, the other person definitely listens to you. Yeah. And stops talking.
And when in doubt, go longer.
And
talk longer.
Doubt, revisit the same topics, preferably. Like, recap monologues. Those are the ones that you really want to stick by.
It's called a filibuster. If you're in a meeting, just talk. Just go for it. Monologue, just go for it. Just control it.
Oh my gosh, that's actually a thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you,
Filibuster, people. This is a life skill.
so if you have like an hour-long meeting, you're like, man, I don't know if I want to be here. Just start talking and go until the hour's up. Be like, well, time's up.
And
Gotta
then
go.
you'll be done with your meeting before you know it. So
Gotta
yeah,
go.
that's a life skill. Monologues. Good question, Kara. We have Holly Goodfellow asked a question. Pretty deep.
Uh-oh.
She said, Job has been a hard book for me to read. So many questions. One of them is, does Satan have the ability to test us now, the way God allowed him to test Job in the Bible? Or are our tests just a normal part of the human experience and don't really have anything to do with Satan? This is a multiple layered, complicated question.
So here's how I started this. I don't know how I came across a couple different articles when I heard that question. But what I found really interesting and kind of what put this whole book in perspective for me and tried to not derail me into getting away from the meaning of it is when you look at that first part where God is talking to his angels, there is a moment where it says in there that it's not a capital Satan, like this is actually Satan. It's used as a lowercase, like a descriptive noun is what it would be, but Satan. And that in Hebrew, the word for a Satan is a person that stands, a person that stands opposed to or as an adversary to someone else. So it was really cool because this article that I was reading gave examples of the fact that when Solomon was king, invading enemies were referred to by that same Hebrew word, which is a Satan or an adversary towards Solomon, or King David was referred to that same word as by the Philistines when he was going up against them, that he was a Satan. And even in the book of Numbers, an angel of the Lord who opposed, I think it's Balaam,
Balaam?
Balaam. But
I don't know.
Yeah,
he was the guy with the donkey.
Yeah, he has a conversation with. We'll get into that. Trust me. I think that'll be the science section. But they use that same word for that angel of the Lord that opposed him going to where he was going as a Satan because it was an adversary. So it was somebody in God's court that was making a case, maybe being the devil's advocate. Wanted to use that one for a while. But as a voice that said, okay, here's what they're thinking, but what about this? So I think if you don't take it as a battle between God and the devil, you take it as somebody questioning God and questioning how this works. I think you're now getting into a bigger question of kind of your theology and your thoughts towards how God works in your life in the human experience.
You know what's interesting about this? There are so many questions in the book of Job that people are asking each other.
There you go.
That's an unrelated fact, but I just thought of that right now.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. If you look at the theology or the Friends' interpretation of God, it's black and white. If you're a good person, you will be blessed. Mm-hmm. If you're a bad person, you will be cursed.
Yes.
They don't leave any room in there for human error, human experience, or the larger scope of God that's something other than this or that.
Yes, and I think, too, if you take into consideration the fact that, sometimes we are being tested. Sometimes it is the fact that, sin has degraded the world, and so the world is just full of bad stuff because we brought bad stuff.
Yeah.
So I would say it's a little bit of both. And I mean, there is even, if you look in 1 Corinthians where it's talking about temptation, temptation still comes. In that sense, we are tested. Yeah. When I think about, you're talking about actual Satan testing people, he did test Jesus.
Yeah.
That was a real thing. That happened.
Yeah.
So, but I would say it's probably a combination of the two, honestly. And what's very interesting about the book of Job, and I decided I'm not going to get into that yet because we have to look at the other questions.
Whoa.
Yes.
Wow.
Cliffhanger.
Sorry, Holly. You're
Sorry,
important
Holly.
to me.
I'm going to answer
You're
your
not
question
very important to Anna right
in
now.
1 second.
Oh.
Because it also answers the next question.
All right.
So, my Bethany Door.
Your Bethany?
My Bethany.
Your Bethany.
My Bethany Door. My sister, Bethany Door. Also put some questions on here.
Boom.
Number 1 was, what would you do if you were Job during the testing? I would probably cry.
I would cry a lot.
I would cry a lot.
I have a feeling I would cry a lot. And I
think the benefit of modern days is we can get wheelchairs and roll away from our bad friends.
I would crawl. Like, I don't know how it would work.
Hand over hand.
But I think my first question, can you please leave?
Can you
and if
please
they
leave?
wouldn't leave my house, I would find a way to leave my house.
Well, you have dogs. You could
I don't know.
sick them.
I don't know.
Sick them on your
Yeah.
friends.
But I think if I was in that situation, a lot of crying.
Yes, a lot of crying.
And please, can I find somebody to talk me through this a little bit better than...
I find that when I am in difficult situations, it's usually tears.
Yeah.
So, and then this one kind of goes along with what I wanted to get into. Why does God let an innocent person be tested so intensely? And I think it really goes to, that is the question that Job is asking. God, why are you doing this? Like, I'm an innocent person. There are literally full chapters where the title at the top is Job proving his innocence, or Job arguing his innocence. And then he goes back and he's like, God, why are you doing this? God, why are you doing this? God, why are you doing this? So it's actually a question that Job himself asks.
Yeah, and I think that's the deeper question of, okay, we have all sinned.
Yeah.
So an innocent person, that's a very tough thing to say. Like, he was a good person. I'm sure there were things in his life that he did wrong. And if we don't weight sin, then all sin is equal, then he did something. And that's where I think when you get into those chapters where it's him proving his innocence, or that he's saying, look at all this good stuff I did. And if it wasn't as good as it should have been, here was my heart behind what I was doing. And he really takes that and says, I was doing this, but man, this was my heart behind it. So it was good. And it's showing that, yes, there was good intent, but there might be things that in God's eyes, or in this situation, he might not be perfect. So there is sin involved. So I don't know. That's the way I looked at that part of it.
You went in an interesting direction with that.
Where did you go?
In a different direction.
All right, go hit it. That's why we like perspective.
Cliffhanger. We're going to get to that in a second.
How many questions are you not going to answer?
Well, because they all basically, I feel like it has the same answer. So I'm just getting the questions out of the way.
Then why am I? Oh.
Well, you are answering them.
Yeah.
My answer is just
Kinda
the
thought
same.
we were both in this
so
together.
I figured I would just do it at the same time.
But you said
All right.
I went in an interesting direction, which means you did not go in that direction, which means you have another viewpoint.
Well, yeah, I do.
All right, hit it.
Not really, but
Oh.
okay. Wait. Last question. Who is your favorite fan? I think that we've established that favoritism is bad. I think that Genesis taught us that.
I will not call any of you my favorite because I don't want anything to thrown down a
would
well,
like-
sold into slavery.
Yes, we would like to remain non-favoritism advocates here.
But if
So-
you listen closely to the way Anna speaks about certain people, you'll figure it out.
Well, no, I just love everyone.
There you go.
Yes.
Safe answer.
That's rude. Okay, so here's what I think is interesting about Job. And
Yeah.
I think this goes into Holly's question, and I think it goes into Bethany's question.
Boom.
And I think it goes into Job's question. And
Hey-o.
really, the friend's question, the question that I felt like as I was reading Job, everybody was asking. And it is the question of evil and suffering. It is a question that all of humanity has been asking. It's a question that trips people up all the time. And it really comes down to like, man, God, why would God allow this? Like, what? This doesn't even make sense. I mean, Job didn't really do anything wrong. That's what he says.
Yeah.
And it feels like God is just letting Satan do bad things to Job just because he was like, all right, let me test him. And God's like, all right, go ahead and do that, And even Job's friends are hung up on this idea of evil and suffering because what they're saying is, what you were saying, hey, like, we have seen the way the world works. Bad stuff happens to bad people, therefore you must have done something wrong. And so it is just this struggle of back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I think for me, what it came down to is it talks about in this verse, 1 second, Here we go. So one of the friends says that, or no, is it a friend? Yeah, one of the friends says this. And he says this, for what has God above chosen for us? What is our inheritance from the Almighty on high? Isn't it calamity for the wicked and misfortune for those who do evil? So that is his expectation. That is our expectation, that calamity comes on bad people. And then later on, then they say this. So listen to me, you who have understanding. Everyone knows that God doesn't sin. This is Elihu. He's the sassy person at the end. The Almighty can do no wrong. He repays people according to their deeds. He treats people as they deserve, which is what we want. Truly, God will not do wrong. The Almighty will not twist justice. And I thought this was such a profound statement because in this moment, what I was thinking about this concept of evil and suffering, and what really trips us up is this idea of justice. Like, if God is a just God, why don't bad things happen to bad people and good things happen to good people? And it is this statement that Elihu brings up where he's like, God is a just God. Like, Job, you must be wrong because God's not going to screw up justice. And so in this moment, knowing how the book of Job ends and how, God comes around, it really occurred to me, and this is what I wrote down. I thought, so if God can't twist justice, then is our sense and understanding of justice wrong?
Well,
like, is that what the problem is? And I think that is the main discussion that is happening in the book of Job. Like, it's not that God isn't just, it's that we don't understand justice.
Yeah, and once again, I think I wrote down this quote because once again I'm reading in the Jesus Bible is what it's called, but it really takes every part of the Bible and really makes sure it shows how it points back to Jesus. And the quote in there was, no human can be righteous before God, but in Christ it's possible for sinful people to be made right with God. And I think that's, if you look at it, because I had a conversation with a high school student just this past week, or 2 weeks ago, that it was like, well, why didn't God send Jesus earlier? Like, why did all these people have to go through it? Why didn't he send them earlier? And it's like, I think God gave us so many chances. And then he's like, well, and he sent Jesus, and now we have that because we didn't get this concept of, we wouldn't be stuck in conversations like this over and over with people about, well, you're just a bad person, so that's what happened. Now we have this extra layer, like, no, we're all bad people at some extent. And now because of Jesus, we have a way to make things right and be in that relationship with God. And so I think that's the bigger thing that goes along with this is that, it's not just black and white of good and bad, because even the littlest thing in God's mind could be that's wrong, and we wouldn't have a way out. So I don't know.
So what do you think, audience people?
Are we waiting to hear from somebody? Because caller? No, we don't have that.
There actually is a phone button.
Oh, how great. Oh, man.
I would have had somebody call in.
Oh,
I would
be so happy if we could take phone calls. Oh, wouldn't that be great? Caller? Go ahead, caller. We have Steven from Wichita.
Yes, that would be great.
Steven, you're on with Anna and Eric.
Okay, so I had a couple verses that I wrote down.
Sweet.
My science verse, I did have a science verse in this one.
Good deal. I'm glad we missed that last time.
It was in one of the monologues. And he's talking about mining, of all things.
Yes.
Goes into mining for a while, and it talks about food is grown on the earth above, but down below the earth is melted as by fire. And I was like, do they just live over lava, or are they somehow understanding the inside of the Earth's core being a liquid? That blew my mind.
Yeah, where do they stand on that? I don't know. I don't know what
caller from like back in the day.
I now
would like to understand what you meant by this.
Yes, somebody
were you living on a volcano, or do you just have that much knowledge about the Earth's core?
We have on the line with us a mining expert from Wyoming. Go ahead, caller.
Go ahead.
We don't have that.
Hello.
That's.
Hello.
Hello. I'm into mine. Not good reception. Can't hear
It's
you.
like he's surprised that the call went through. That's what that is.
He doesn't have many people asking him any questions. He was so happy.
All right, that is.
I love this
Thank
podcast.
you, caller. Hanging up on him. So that was my science segment for today. And then I have a
That miner just told his whole family to listen to this podcast. He was so excited to be on it and finally be used. And he said, hello? You know what? I'm getting rid of it.
just to clarify, we will not treat other callers like that in the future.
I'm crying.
Another verse that I thought was great. So when Job was talking about how nice he is. By the way, I thought it was so interesting that one of his friends during conversation, because, you know, they were talking about like, oh, you must be a bad person. And one of his friends just starts listing out all these accusations like, you abandoned poor people and you mistreated the orphans and stuff. And I was like, he's totally making these up. Like, he has no evidence that this happened. He's just listing a bunch of really bad stuff. And he's like, you totally did this. And then Job later is like, I didn't actually.
but the thing is, like, there's nobody that stands up for Job and be like, dude, get out of here. Like, what are you doing? You're legit. Do you see this guy? Like, he's in horrible shape, and you're just piling. Not one person said, hey, let's lay off a little bit. Give him a second.
Can I give you some ointment?
A warm towel. I don't know.
Anything. So anyways, that was off topic.
Yeah.
But he's listing like things that the good things he's done. So he says, if I have been unfair to my male or female servants when they brought their complaints to me, how could I face God? What could I say when he questioned me? For God created both me and my servants. He created us both in the womb. And I was like, dude, this is like all man is created equal. Constitution business. Happened here first, folks.
Do you think that's where they got it
The
from?
Bible. Probably. I would assume so. I mean, all good things come from God, right?
Boom.
And then my last rando one was really just more like, you know, it talks about the land a lot. There's a lot of personification of the land that occurs in the Bible. Like, the earth is groaning and the earth cries out. Like, when we went to Cain and Abel, the first murder. And God said, the earth has cried out.
Yeah.
Because the blood of Abel, the blood of Abel is on the ground. And so I just, you know, I look at those things and I'm just so interested about, okay, what does that mean like for us? What is that all about, that there's so much personification of the earth? And there's actually a verse 2 that talks about, if we do not testify to the glory of God, the rocks and the stones will cry out.
Well, I think it shows, for me at least, it shows the importance of all God's creation. So if God created all of this, like, there has to be a respect and a love and a caring for everything, no matter if it's a rock or the earth or whatever it is. We have to have this heart for it because there is something special and magical and great about God's creation. So whatever it is, there has to be a respect for it. So I think that's why it's important that it comes up over and over and over again, because it is something, yes, God created people. We should love one another, but we should also love everything that he's created. So
Recycling.
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Yes.
There you go.
Because the earth will cry out at you, and you will be very surprised when that happens.
It would get angry.
You're like, oh my gosh, it's talking. Although, again, Balaam did not seem surprised by his donkey. Okay, that is way ahead. This is a spoiler.
Listen, this is
That's a way future spoiler.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned for the talking donkey. That will be coming.
Not Shrek. We're not
Not
going.
Shrek. We're not. Oh yeah, because he's so is Shrek biblical? I don't think so. Okay.
Anywho,
So, back
sorry
on
about
topic.
that. Yeah.
So, basically, this section of monologues, I felt like it was the question of evil and suffering.
Yeah, and once again, I think if we put it in today's context, if somebody was to submit this novel or this book to somebody, I think the editor would take out a lot of these conversations and be like, we got the point the first 3 times you talked about it.
Yeah, you didn't need to recap your question.
Yeah.
Over.
I'm pretty sure the editor would have taken some of that. And I understand that all of it is important, and I'm sure if you read it over and over again, you will hear different things in different parts that really speak to you. So I'm sorry if I offended somebody but I'm sure we could have got through with one or two.
You know, the Bible.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
It'll get
Sometimes comedic, sometimes heart-wrenching. But I really, you know, if you are thinking about, hey, what about evil and suffering? What does that mean? You were not the first person to ask the question.
Yeah.
Job asked it too.
And he lived it.
And his friends asked it. And Elihu, that guy.
Oh, Elihu.
I don't remember exactly how that one pans out, but I'm just like,
I don't know.
He even starts out and he's like, listen, Job is wrong and you guys are wrong because you couldn't prove him wrong. And I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm going to say something now. And I'm like, no, don't say anything.
It's not going to help. It's not gonna...
Hold back, Elihu.
I don't know. But
and
I don't know. These are guys that traveled to be here for Job. They sat silent for 7 days.
And then they couldn't hold it in anymore.
And then it was just building. Like, were they journaling? Like,
there
did they
is
have?
A verse.
Like, were they writing?
I would like to. Maybe that's why it was a monologue.
Yeah,
because they're like, I wrote this down.
Yeah, you remember those 7 days where we just sat here silent? I had a lot of thoughts. To say. Now is my time.
Yeah. Elihu does say like, I can't hold it in anymore.
Yeah, I just can't.
So dramatic.
Yeah. But yeah, I just think for my takeaway, and for those of you that are having a rough time getting through this, is just really take a look at your friend group. Really take a look at your friends.
Is that what you're landing on? Next steps, people.
Yeah.
Take a look at your friend
group. Take a look at your friends. And
are they there for you? Did they insult you when you're sick?
Yeah, when something goes bad. Like, if you catch the flu and you're just throwing up and you're sick, do they come over and just tell you how horrible of a person you are and how God is
you
and
may
then,
need new friends.
Then make up stories about what you did to people? Like, is that what they do?
Yeah.
And if that is, put a better security system in your house and don't let them in.
Yeah, for sure.
Those are my next steps.
So next steps. I think my next step is actually to wait. Because this whole section of Job that we've been reading is very much the questions, the struggle, the confusion. We are about to get to God's answer. So for those of you hanging on to the book of Job and you're like, I have no idea what's going on.
Well, and
we're about to get to God's answer.
And through this whole thing, as miserable and as down and as much as he cries out, he still doesn't turn on God. Like that's the biggest thing is he still is faithful. And he's like, I don't understand any of this. Take me out of it. Yeah. Please just end it. Get away from me. Where are you? All of these things crying out to God. But at no point is he like, well, you're horrible, God. I can't believe you did this. I'm out. I'm done with this relationship. Like he clings, the one thing that he clings on to more than anything is the fact that there is a purpose. There's something in it. God is in that no matter what. And I think for us, we're going to have good times and bad times. We have to understand that no matter where we're at, God is in it. And so that's my biggest, beside the friend thing, that's my actual takeaway of it.
Good times.
Yeah, I think it's fun.
Okay, so the How to Read the Bible class is done for this month. Wow. There will be another one next quarter, so you can do that. There will also be coming up a video How to Read the Bible class, so you can look at that on the internet. It's going to be great. We will announce it here. Big deal.
Oh, man.
There will be more opportunities for fan questions in the future. If you think, wow, you really did a horrible job of answering questions, which Eric probably did.
Yeah.
Then...
At least I didn't cut off any questions.
That's
I
true.
Made sure all of you were
done it better.
Noticed equal.
Or if you want to call in, we may be moving in that direction.
You know what? If we can figure that out.
You're a mining expert. We would love to speak to you. So thank you for listening to What Now with Anna and Eric. Hang on for next week where we will be hearing God's response. And I think we're going to get a lot of good information, clarification out of that.
And I think we move into Exodus too.
Oh, yeah, because it's almost over. 42 books in Job. So we're going to be moving to a different place, specifically Exodus, which is the exit. So, which Job's friends should have been doing.
Which they should have found that a lot sooner.
We will talk to you next week. I'm Anna.
I'm Eric.
And we are fairly normal people.
Fairly normal.
Talking about the Bible.
Yes.